Welcome those that are watching on the video now too. I'm going to remember in a couple years, if we're still doing this, I'll remember to wait for the video before I introduce everything. Exodus chapter 36, as we continue on. It's been, Sean, what do you need? It's this mic? This mic goes to the parking lot. I've been here before, I promise. I knew it sounded different. Thank you, Sean. If you go ahead and throw that picture up, Sean, and leave it, that'll be fine. Exodus chapter 36. Last week we mentioned in Exodus, after the golden calf and all of that and the aftermath, Exodus goes back into that really descriptive mode, that instruction manual, if you will. And I was thinking about it today, reading Exodus 36 again. This is almost an intimidating passage to teach or to preach, just mainly because I don't know what to say beyond just the bare black and white words that are there in the book of Exodus. So tonight we're going to talk about the curtains specifically that were in the tabernacle. And this is very similar to Exodus chapter 26. Now, it's been a while since we were in Exodus 26, but in Exodus 26, the idea was God was telling Moses, this is what you'll do, and here's the description. And now in Exodus 36, they're doing it. Okay, does that make sense? So we had the instruction manual in Exodus 26, and now we're getting it step by step pretty much as they do it. Okay, so I'll kind of step back from adding a whole lot because I know less about curtains than I do some other things. But we put the picture up here, and I hope it's helpful because I know in my case, if you say curtains, I think about the ones you have over your bedroom window. Okay, so immediately when the Bible would say curtains, that's where my mind goes. As you can see in this photo, or this picture, and it's not a photo, that'd be really amazing if we had a photo from the tabernacle. In this picture, you have these, the different curtains. Now, this is, here's a disclaimer, this is an artist's interpretation of what these curtains look like. If you Google it, which is all I did, I Googled Exodus 36 images, and there's several different iterations of this, and they're all decently similar, but it's just to give you an idea of what's happening here in Exodus 36. Okay, well, let's go ahead and we'll begin in verse 1. Bezalel and Aholiab, and every craftsman in whom the Lord has put skill and intelligence to know how to do any work in the construction of the sanctuary, shall work in accordance with all that the Lord has commanded. And Moses called Bezalel and Aholiab and every craftsman in whose mind the Lord had put skill, everyone whose heart stirred him up to come and do the work. And they received from Moses all the contribution that the people of Israel had brought for doing the work on the sanctuary. They still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning, so that all the craftsmen who were doing every sort of task on the sanctuary came, each from the task that he was doing, and said to Moses, the people bring much more than enough for doing the work that the Lord has commanded us to do. So Moses gave command, and the word was proclaimed throughout the camp, let no man or woman do anything more for the contribution for the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing, for the material they had was sufficient to do all the work and more. Okay, we'll pause right there. Remember, we have these two men named Bezalel and Aholiab. They've been mentioned before. And this is not just that they were given gifts by God at birth to do these things. Certainly that's a part of it. But we even see where the Spirit of God is moving these men to do these things, to give them almost an extra giftedness. If you can wrap your mind around a special giftedness for construction and making things, this is what God has given these men, and certainly others as well, but these two are mentioned. And we'll see in the next chapter, this Bezalel, this man was the one that made the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, we mentioned that last week, how big of a responsibility that would be to be the man that constructed with his hands the Ark of the Covenant. But these people are skilled to build these things. God has blessed them to be able to do these things. And then on top of that, the people of Israel are bringing their contributions to make these things so. Okay, all this colored yarn, this linen, these skins that we'll read about, even the gold and the acacia wood, some things we read last week and we'll continue to read about throughout the rest of Exodus. These folks were bringing this in, and they were bringing it in, the Bible speaks of with a willing heart. They were stirred up to do it. They wanted to do it. And just for example, and please, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but just yesterday I was at the grocery store. I had one or two things, and the lady behind me had one or two things, and I just felt stirred up to pay for her one or two things. Okay, it wasn't a big contribution. I felt stirred up to do it. Okay, it cost me $4 or $5 extra, whatever it was. But in a similar fashion, these people were just stirred up to do this. So much so that Moses had to say, "Hey, y'all got to stop. We got enough. Okay, if you keep bringing, I don't know where I'm going to put it on." Okay, Moses had a good problem. It's the old idea that in football, if you have two good quarterbacks, that's a problem. Okay, because you don't know which one to play. You might think back when Tom Landry would shuttle the boys in several years ago. Okay, that might sound like a good problem. Sometimes it's a problem. Okay, Moses was saying, "Hey, your heart's in the right place. You're doing good. You're doing what God's commanded you to do. But if you keep bringing it, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. We have enough." I read one commentary that said Moses here is showing a restraint because he could have pocketed a lot of this for personal gain, and that's certainly true. So I appreciate Moses' heart in this. But you see how God had moved the people. God had wanted this done, and He provided everything. Because think back, where did all this material come from? Did they pick it up from the wilderness? No, it was provided for them by God when they left Egypt. Okay, when they left Egypt, remember, they took spoils from the nation of Egypt. And the Bible very specifically says that God gave them these things. So they're really just giving back what God's already blessed them with. Okay, very similar to what we believe about tithes and offerings and just giving back. This is a good thing. This was a fantastic thing. These same people riding this roller coaster of faith, this roller coaster of life, been in captivity in Egypt, seen the plagues, done the Red Sea, seen all of that stuff happening, saw Moses go up the mountain, witnessed the storm cloud above the mountain, just scared them to death. They did the golden calf. The people lost their life because of the golden calf. I mean, these folks have been through a lot, and some of it of their own making. I think we would certainly have to say, we put the blame on some of them here. But at this juncture, what are they doing? They're doing exactly what God has blessed them with. They are working. They are doing exactly what God's described 10 chapters ago, and now they're also bringing what they have to contribute. Okay, and now in verse, no, we didn't read verse 8, did we? And all the craftsmen among the workmen made the tabernacle with 10 curtains. They were made of fine twined linen and blue and purple and scarlet yarns, with cherubim skillfully worked. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains were the same size. Okay, now here we are getting into the real descriptive part. These colored yarns, remember everything just about is blue, purple, and scarlet. So of course, you know, scarlet's a red color, with cherubim skillfully worked. So if you would, the one closest to me, see what the blue text is? I don't expect you to be able to read that blue text, but that's the one that is being described here. Again, just an artist's interpretation. There are certainly alternate ideas of exactly what it looked like. We don't know 100% for certain. But when you think of a curtain, like I said, at your bedroom window, that's a little different, isn't it? For one, these things, the Bible says, are 28 cubits. Let's see, I lost it. 28 cubits long, and the breadth is 4 cubits. So 28 cubits would be 42 feet. Okay, a cubit, remember, is 18 inches. And so the width would be 6 feet. All right, these are big curtains. All right, I hung curtains in Hannah's room the other day, not even close to this. So that's the blue text that we just read about right there. Okay, as you can tell on top, the white part of that curtain right there, are the cherubim. Again, not exactly certain that's exactly the way they were, but just to give you a picture. All right, verse 10. He coupled 5 curtains to one another and the other 5 curtains he coupled to one another. He made loops of blue on the edge of the outermost curtain of the first set. Likewise, he made them on the edge of the outermost curtain of the second set. He made 50 loops on the one curtain, and he made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that was in the second set. The loops were opposite one another. And he made 50 clasps of gold and coupled the curtains one to another with clasps, so that the tabernacle was a single whole. Okay, verse 14. He also made curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. He made 11 curtains. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains were the same size. That he coupled 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves. And he made 50 loops on the edge of the outermost curtain of the one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the other connecting curtain. And he made 50 clasps of bronze to couple the tent together, that it might be a single whole. And he made for the tent a covering of 10 ram skins and goat skins. Okay. The red text that's here on the picture. Okay, that's the picture of the woven goat hair. Okay, then it already talks about the ram skins. That's the red curtain there with the yellow text. Okay, so this time it's curtains on top of curtains. These curtains, the goat's hair, are a little smaller. Instead of 42 feet long, they're longer. Instead of 42 feet long, they're 45 feet long. They're 30 cubits. So if you remember back in Exodus 26, these things were described as well. Okay, verse 20. Then he made the upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits was the length of a frame, and 1.5 cubits the breadth of each frame. Each frame had 2 tenons for fitting together. He did this for all the frames of the tabernacle. The frames for the tabernacle he made thus: 20 frames for the south side, and he made 40 bases of silver under the 20 frames, 2 bases under one frame for its 2 tenons, and 2 bases under the next frame for its 2 tenons. For the second side of the tabernacle on the north side he made 20 frames, and there are 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame and 2 bases under the next frame. For the rear of the tabernacle westward he made 6 frames. He made 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear, and they were separate beneath but joined at the top at the first ring. He made 2 of them this way for the 2 corners. There were 8 frames with their bases of silver, 16 bases under every frame, 2 bases. Okay, everybody sketch what we just read in 60 seconds. All right. This is one of those things we'll have to go back and read slow. I think if we hearing me read it, it is probably difficult, but to go back and read it, it'll make a little bit more sense. It's just a frame. Okay, it's a frame to hold all these curtains up. Okay, it makes sense, and now God can do whatever he wants, but it makes sense that these curtains would need a frame to hold them up. Well, this is what was described right here. Okay. Verse 30, and I'm going through this real fast, but like I said at the beginning, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to add to these very basic instructions. Verse 31, he made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the tabernacle at the rear westward. And he made the middle bar to run from end to end, halfway up the frames. And he overlaid the frames with gold, and made their rings of gold for holders for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. He made the veil with blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen, with cherubim skillfully worked into it. He made it. And he made 4 pillars of acacia and overlaid them with gold. Their hooks were of gold, and he cast for them 4 bases of silver. He also made a screen for the entrance of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework. And its 5 pillars with their hooks he overlaid. Their capitals and their fillets were made of gold, but their 5 bases were of bronze. Okay, we'll pause reading there for tonight. I'll let you off the hook with reading one chapter. Remember when we talked in that first instance in the book of Exodus when all these things were described? We talked about one of the biggest things about that. Now, we can get lost in how many cubits things are and what color they are and what metal or wood. Of course, I think everything thus far has been acacia wood. But We can get lost in all of those details, but forget that what was the purpose in this? It was God was creating a way for him and his people to have a very special relationship. Okay? All of these things. What is this called? This is the tabernacle, but what else is it called? The tent of meeting. Okay? Because it was important to God to have relationship with his people. Even the people who were of some guilt of the golden calf not too long before this. Okay? It was always God's plan to have this close relationship with these folks. In the same way today, now it's a little different but for us, but that's still the goal for us, is to have that close personal relationship with the Lord. I really do think it's one of the things that sets Christianity apart. I think there's a lot of things that set Christianity apart. I believe it's the only, I believe God is described in the Bible, the God that we worship is the only God. That's one way that we're set apart. I believe Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by him. That's another way that we're set apart. But just this idea that God is personal is pretty unique in world religion. Most of the time, a God or a deity is disconnected, uncaring, if not just downright mean. Okay? Would any of y'all have blamed God? Now, we know this would be outside the character of God, we're kind of pretending here, but would you have been real upset or blamed God if he had wiped these folks off the map? He'd already done the flood once. Okay? The golden calf, literally just right then at that point in time, was just horrible. Not just the act itself, but just the timing of the act, because what is Moses coming down the mountain with? The tablets that literally say, hey, no idols. Okay? Idols, and remember that just the horrific statement that the Israelites were saying about the golden calf, saying, this is the God that led us out of Egypt. I mean, could you get sicker at your stomach? But God is still, these are the people that God is still wanting to have relationship with. And we certainly can connect that to modern times and those of us. And we may be decent citizens and good men and women and all of those things, but there are certainly times where we've fallen short. And if God was like you or me, God would have already said, you know what, I'm done with this one. But that's not the way God is. Okay, it should blow us away that he's wanting to have this relationship with these folks. And I want you to consider something else too. In the initial description of the tabernacle, or the tent of meeting, when God is telling Moses about these things, since then, the golden calf and all that's happened. When Moses is telling Bezalel and Oholiab and these others that are working on the tabernacle, when Moses said, hey, now this has got to be 28 cubits, how precise do you think the boys are going to be on making it 28 cubits? They're going to make it right, aren't they? Because they've already heard so many things. Hey, if you do this wrong, what's been the penalty for some of the things so far in Exodus? You lose your life. Okay? So after the golden calf and about 3,000 folks lost their life, is Bezalel and Oholiab, are they making sure their yardsticks and their tape measures and all that are on the same page? And absolutely they are. Okay? This is serious business. But as serious as it is, who's really getting the job done? It's still even God, isn't it? Why? These people have been gifted to do it in a special way. And where's the material coming from? Well, God provided the material too, even though the people had the right heart to come and bring it. So in all things, okay, all the things that we contribute, all the things that we're gifted to do, and the things that we use for the Lord and for his glorification, for his glory, where do those things really even come back? It always comes back to God, doesn't it? Okay? You hear somebody, well, first thing I thought of was a ball player, and they say, well, I just give glory to the Lord. Well, that makes sense, because if they didn't have lungs, if they didn't have legs, if they couldn't do it. Okay? If you can frame a house, you couldn't do that without the Lord. If you can build the Ark of the Covenant, you couldn't do that without the Lord. It always goes back to him. So I hope, and I assume this much. I don't necessarily think the Bible says this verbatim, but I assume that Oholiab and Bezalel, they are really leaning into the Lord to make this thing right. Okay, God had a specific plan. God provided the men, He provided the gifting, and He provided the materials. Okay? God, if He's got something He wants to get done, He gets it done. And that's good news for you and I in a lot of ways. One of the ways is, if it was on us, it wouldn't happen. Okay? God gets it done. Okay? That's why we worship Him and we lift Him up above all others. Okay? Well, let's tonight let's take some prayer requests. I know there's a lot on. Thank you, Sean. There's a lot on your.